Addressing climate change has become a top priority during the election campaign as wildfires, extreme heat, and drought have already hit many Canadian communities. With countries worldwide looking to reduce their impact and shifting to renewable energy sources, what will Canada do? Climate change has been a major discussion during this election, and political parties have all made various promises to address the issue. But what are some realistic steps that the next federal government can take to address climate change? And how can individual Canadians make a difference in this effort? Well, joining us now to help address some of these questions is Mr. Gideon Forman, climate change and transportation policy analyst at the David Suzuki Foundation. Sir, welcome to Forum Daily.
Thanks so much.
Now, we hear a lot about climate change, especially on the campaign trail. But what does climate change look like in Canada today compared to maybe 50 or 100 years ago?
I think a lot of what we've been seeing this past summer, these droughts, these forest fires, the heat. I mean, I think about the heat in that poor community of Lytton, British Columbia, in the BC interior, reaching temperatures of 49 degrees Celsius. So you think about it, that's halfway to boiling on the Celsius scale. I mean, that's what climate change is looking like. And so when the scientists say climate change is real, it's happening now, that's what it looks like.
All right, sir. Well, jumping to some of the issues on the campaign trail, we know affordability is a big one. So what are some realistic or reasonable steps to address rising food and energy costs in an environmentally sustainable way?
I mean, I think the good thing about the transition we need to make to move to a greener economy is that a lot of the things that we're going to have in our daily lives in that economy are actually going to be less expensive. So as we move, for example, to wind and solar power, the cost of electricity is going to come down. One of the big energy stories of the last few years is just how much electricity costs for wind and solar have dropped just dramatically in the last few years. As we move to more electric cars and electric buses, municipalities and individuals are going to save money because it's actually just cheaper to run electric vehicles. Electric cars, as you know, there's just not much to go wrong with them, so maintenance costs are very low. And same thing with electric buses. They're just very inexpensive to run. So the good news is that a lot of the things we need in this new green economy, they're the right thing to do. They're good for the climate, but they're also good for the pocketbook.
All right, sir. Well, we know a major aspect of the climate change discussion in Canada is the country's oil reserves. So what would a complete shift from Canada's dependence on fossil fuels to green energy look like?
Well, first of all, it would be a place where we're doing something for the workers in the oil and gas sector. You know, as we make that transition away from oil and gas, as the scientists say we have to, we absolutely 100% have to protect the folks who are working in the oil and gas sector and make sure that they get other jobs in the new economy. The good news is that there are lots of jobs in that new economy. We can put lots of people to work building electric buses and electric cars and putting up solar and wind power, producing fruits and vegetables and other foods that we need locally. So the good news is as we transition to that green economy, it's going to be an economy in which we create a lot of jobs as well.
All right, sir, just about 2 minutes left here, but jumping to transportation, Canada is a large country with a spread out population. So what are some ways we can better link our northern and rural people with the rest of the country while reducing emissions?
Well, one of the things that we've talked about is a national bus system. You know, this year with Greyhound pulling out of Canada, a lot of northern and remote communities are really isolated and they're not connected anymore. What we think the federal and provincial governments and territorial governments should do is have a national bus system, ideally with electric buses, so that people in these rural and northern communities would be able to get around by bus. That's a first step, we think.
All right, sir. And what are your concerns or your organization's concerns when it comes to Canada-specific issues in terms of climate change?
Well, we absolutely have to get our emissions down. I mean, we have to transition away from the fossil fuel sector. And that's not just us saying that. That's what the world scientists and economists are saying. We have to move away from that. That means a very significant reduction in emissions from oil and gas, probably on the order of 60%. But the good news is in this transition, we can also create a lot of jobs. And Canada is really well positioned for this transition. We have a huge amount of solar and wind power, for example. I mean, on the southern prairies in Alberta and Saskatchewan, we have world-class wind and solar. So as we make that transition, I think we're going to find a lot of benefits, a lot of co-benefits. Also, people's health will improve. As we're not burning fossil fuels, air quality is going to improve. And so we're going to see people healthier as well.
All right, Mr. Gideon Forman from the David Suzuki Foundation. Sir, thank you so much for joining us today on Forum Daily.